How many of you get these questions? I know Flip started out with questions, so I just have one. How many of you have a cell phone? Okay. So if you have a cell phone, you're in business. You don't need to wonder about whether you could be in business or what kind of structure you got to have or what kind of legal hoops you have to jump through. If you've got a phone, you can text and you can talk, and those are the only two things you need in order to be in business with the kind of interconnections that are possible using that technology. So enabling technologies. We have people in Africa living, as you see in this example, who are in very remote areas. I can remember 20 years ago where the notion of having Africa be a participant in a global economy was unheard of because there was no way to communicate with it. And we all had this vision that we were going to have to get these telephone poles out there in the middle of nowhere in order for them to have phone access. And it's been completely disrupted by wireless technology, cellular technology, and in some instances, I've made several trips over working with folks in India. They have better cellular service in India than we have here in the United States.
That's right.
And so the rate of innovation, if you will, their ability to connect themselves together in enterprises is extraordinary. So that kind of leads into this idea of I'm an individual. I'm one person, but I can reach anywhere in the world. And in order for me to be able to do that kind of connection, I've got either a cell phone that's using an iOS on it, it's an iPhone, or I've got an Android-based phone, whatever it might be. From a phone standpoint, it has a system that enables me to go through a series of portals. And don't let that terminology get you fouled up. It's an application. It's the thing that makes the phone work, or the smartphone, to be able to get into a point of contact, or content that you want to reach, and then use this platform to reach people through that topic. So, for instance, if I'm looking for water, or many of you have used perhaps apps around food, if you want to find your favorite restaurant and you're in a particular location where you don't know anything about restaurants there, it's very easy to use these applications to get into the content about restaurants, and then through the platform of all of these contacts, you get people that give you reviews about what restaurant they really like, and how expensive or inexpensive it is, so on and so forth. So we're actually to the point now where we want to create an app. You see something in there that says, "We Live." This is an app that is currently under development. It was started with, let's see. How many of you are familiar with the Occupy Wall Street? Okay. Now, I want to immediately clarify something. I talk about organization design because that's what I'm into. When I talk about the Occupy movement, I'm not trying to make a political statement, okay? I'm simply talking about how people have shown the use of technology to bring themselves together in a way that they can sustain an effort over time that has an impact, okay? So basically, it's them being able to create a community. I mean, it's by definition, if you can survive over a period of time, you're establishing a community. And that's what this movement is proving. So we have some lessons we can learn out of that. And one of them is the development of an app like this that says if I go to a place where I want to live, or I want to visit, or I want to occupy, I can pull this, I can take my phone out and I can type in, turn on this app, and I can ask the question, where do I go to get some fresh water? Where do I go to get a place to sleep tonight? Where do I go to get first aid? And that app tells you. And it also gives you the opportunity to choose what it is that how you're going to pay for it. I got money I can pay. I got something I'm willing to trade or barter, or I have something I'm willing to let someone else use, and that gets you out of the tax implications of the barter. say, I've got time I'm willing to give. So you have the ways that you can conduct a transaction that compensates for what it is that you're getting, and that's another way that a sustainable community is formed. It's around how to conduct those transactions that are part of the local economy. Does that make sense so far? So one voice does make a difference in this world. And you can get your phone and you can type in an app that takes you to a site like Change On, and you can put in a petition that says, I want Bank of America to take that 5% or $5 charge they're going to put on there and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. And get 300,000 people to say, I agree. And to get Bank of America to say, I'm not going to do that. So that's an example of one person, Molly Hedgepool, who actually put that petition on Change On, got those signatures, and had that kind of impact. So it's not a matter of wondering whether it can work or not. It absolutely can. And each one of us in here is totally capable of it. So we have at our disposal that kind of resource, that kind of capability. She didn't go out and apply for a grant. She didn't go out there and put a business plan together to see whether she could get somebody to fund it. She didn't go around there and beg people to give her money so that she could be able to do something like this. All of those are things that we put in our head that says we can't do that. That's part of where we've been, but now, if we look ahead at where we're going, the capabilities are right there in front of us. So that kind of gets us around to this notion of participation. When we first got the grant, about 3 years ago, I gave a presentation about what we were doing, and I focused in on what we considered to be the major area, which was participation. And I can remember putting a title on one of the slides that said, 100% participation in local food systems is the goal. And of course, I had people just, Lord, you gotta be kidding me. How can you possibly get that? I said, well, hold on. I want it to be so pervasively known that there's an alternative in food to getting it from the global system that everyone in that community is going to have to make a choice. I'm either going to buy it from the global system or I'm going to buy it from the local system. And in that respect, the fact that they're making the choice is participation. They had to know enough or admit that they knew enough to realize that they were making a conscious decision. I'm either going to buy local or I'm going to buy global. Now, once we get past that point, everybody's in, okay? Everyone's in. Now, how are they in? That becomes the real question. Obviously, you can do it by what you're buying and how you buy it. So while this is focused on food, don't let that cloud the issue. It applies to everything within a community that is built off of what it takes to survive. Everything is in these kind of aspects. So where does a person stand with their own motivation? You know, what drives them to participate? It's one thing to buy something or to get it in some way, but it's another to say, hey, I think this is a better deal. I think it's good for me health-wise. I think it's good for our community. Each one of those kind of carries different levels of commitment, if you will. It says why I'm in this, which then leads into going out in the community and engaging with the community to find others who are of like mind. And of course, with this technology available, it's very easy to be able to find those people and pull them around you, which then gets you into this whole notion around political involvement. Because the politics in this case, I'm not talking about a bipartisan kind of political action, but I'm talking about a community that takes collective responsibility for letting this train go by before I can talk. Dave, he was really good about that, you know? Okay, so we're going to get people involved in changing, taking collective responsibility personally through their political processes that are direct democracy to say, here's what we need in the way of regulations, policies, of those codes, those conditions that are guiding our community life so that we can be successful here and spend less of our energy, our resources to maintain ourselves. So that kind of one to many plays out there in affecting that political process. And then, of course, the last one has to do with being in a value chain, starting at the source and getting to the point of consumption. There are a lot of steps in between. And so how we choose to participate in that value chain becomes very important as well. I can choose to be someone who's investing, but I'm not doing anything. I can actually volunteer and get involved in something, or I can start a business. I can be very entrepreneurial in that respect. So this is an eye chart. I've walked you through these. This is the way we put up the scorecard when we were reporting in to the USDA and said these are the ways we are opening the door for people to participate, and this is how we're evaluating the degree of engagement we've been able to get for people in communities as they grab a hold of their local food systems. But the main takeaway here is everyone is in.
Steve, before you go away from this slide, you can't see it in the back. How does it work, and what are all these things saying?
Well, if I start in the center, it's kind of like a bullseye. So you see that yellow status quo in the center? That means I'm not doing anything different. I'm just continuing to do the same thing I've always done. Or I can say, all right, I'm going to participate. I'm going to go to that first level. So if I go around to each of those 5 categories of purchasing, personal motivation, community engagement, political involvement, and value chain contributions, that orange one layer in there, then I go from a purchasing standpoint, I might go to a farmer's market. It's convenient. I might do this because there's a health reason. So I'm getting that local food because it gives me access to food that is something I need for my health standpoint. Community engagement, a lot of times people will just stay distant, but they'll search, they'll find out about different people in their community, they'll work on conversations in groups, but they won't ever contribute anything. I wouldn't know anyone like that. Vote and lobby, so I'm willing to take a stand, I'm willing to cast my vote, so I will participate in the democracy. I will volunteer as far as value chain contributions. So then I move into that blue layer, it's another layer of involvement where I'm really going to make, I'm going to subscribe. I'm not just going to occasionally go to the farmer's market, I'm going to subscribe to CSA. So now I've made another level of financial commitment here in this whole process. I'm making a lifestyle change. This isn't about a particular health issue. I'm now into a whole different way of seeing how I can respect my health needs and be able to change my lifestyle. So now I don't just lurk and post or search. I join and post. I'm willing to do public service. I'm willing to invest something other than volunteering. Now I'm taking other assets that I have and I'm putting into the game. And then you move into the green circle, and that carries even further as far as the degree of commitment and involvement. I will advocate to have a grocery store put a section in there that's dedicated to local foods, for instance. Getting Walmart to say they'll source 15% of all the fresh produce from local suppliers and that sort of thing. Although that's a whole other story, we won't get into that. Aspirations that convene and lead. So now you see people are taking more of an advocacy leadership role.